Hi, and welcome to the Scenic Route podcast. This is the show for building a successful and sustainable business on your terms. My name is Jen, and I'm a rebranding sociologist with a soft spot for rhubarb pie. Each week, I'll strive to expand your branding, business expertise, and mindset capacity. I'm so excited you're here, and now let's get into today's episode. Kristie Kennedy, the image confident expert, is a TEDx Audacious Leadership keynote speaker and authentic lifestyle author. As the owner of Queenfidence Global Image Consulting, her electrifying inspirational gift empowers visionaries with confidence and clarity, keys to find their voice. She specializes in 4 areas of peak performance: mindset mastery, massive momentum, magnetic messaging, and potential maximization. She is a certified radical resilience coach who builds powerhouse mindsets equipped for success. Her bodacious belief is a testament that you can shift from mediocrity to magnificence, one daring step at a time. Kristie, hi, how are you?
Hey. I'm ready to blaze.
Oh my God, that's an introduction. I like it. I'm already here for it.
It's so good to see you, Jennifer.
Same. Hey, listen, I kind of want everyone who's tuning in today, give them an idea of who you are. Can you briefly walk us through your story? Like how you started, how you got to the Kristie you are today? What are like the pivotal crossroads, your big moments?
I started with the question, who am I? For a long time, Jennifer, I had no idea who I was. And I often believe that was one of the largest pieces to the puzzle that needs to be filled before you can step into power, your authenticity, your voice. It's all connected to who you are. When we look in the mirror, it does not matter what anyone else sees. What matters is what we see.
We're our own worst critic, huh?
Yeah, it took a long time for Kristie to see Kristie.
Oh, when did Kristie emerge?
Oh, my greatest power has been in my imperfections. I often say my imperfection is my superpower, because at one point the imperfections were crippling me. They were the crutches. Anybody can pull from experience and they'll say, I am this, I am that. You are not this or that. I am stuck. I'm overweight, whatever the thing is. You are who you decide to be. And when I tapped into that power, and at the crux of my power has been my pain, because the insecurities often arise and emerge from what? The pain communicates a message and tells us we're less than. But no, you're more than, because of the pain. You're going to be greater than because of the pain. It will not hold you back. It will thrust you forward.
Oh, you're not holding back here, Kristie. We're like 30 seconds in and you're like already. Oh, we're up for a ride today. Holy moly. But it's so true, right? Like, that's why, like, with my kid, I like this example when we talk about feelings and stuff, right? Like, he's 3 now. So we're like slowly, like, how are you feeling? Like, we're teaching him not to say, I am sad, but to say, I'm feeling sad, which is a totally different case. But it's in the semantics, right? It's such a small detail, but that's actually the devil, right? Like, we're just so negligent with our language.
Right.
Whether that be self-talk or like how we talk, whatever, whenever, in every situation, we're not paying attention to all these like little moments where we talk down on ourselves, not really mixing those up. So I'm really glad you brought that up.
I love that. We are negligent with our language. That's spot on, Jennifer.
Yeah.
Language is so powerful. We have to handle it with care.
Yeah. What were your biggest, like, kind of like bold moments when it came to language? What was kind of like a flip you made with language? Like, for me, it was really like the I feel sad and I am sad, to kind of like learn, like, I'm not my feelings. That was also like a journey for me. Did you have like a similar flip? Like,
absolutely. I remember the first book that I read, because going back into my journey, I didn't know how to process emotions. I didn't know how to articulate the emotions. There was a lot of big emotions. I did have a journal, but what changed for me was when I started reading. And the book that I read was Dr. Martin Luther King's Strength to Love.
Oh,
Strength,
wow.
strength to love. When you choose love over fear, love over anger, stepping into a state of love, compassion, that was one thing.
Forgiveness, right?
And the forgiveness is in that space. So what flipped for me was, I'm no longer communicating, Jennifer, from hurt. I'm no longer communicating from anger and pain, all of those different things, frustration. When I communicate now, I'm choosing love, but loving leadership, I call it. I'm choosing to speak with love, because I used to curse like a sailor, and I have not used profanity since 1997. Dr. Martin Luther King, when I would read that book, I had to look up every single word. So my vocabulary became expansive. Now I didn't have to choose F-bombs, right? I can, communicate my thoughts in a clear, intelligent manner. And that within itself created calm in my headspace.
Yeah, God, language is so powerful. Like it's really, it can bring us together and it keeps us apart. And how did you start, like, give us a bit about like the becoming of Kristie? Like, how did you start? I mean, I'm drawing from my own experience. It was always easier to kind of like be kind or speak from a place of love to others, like give to others. And then I would be like, ooh, well, it would actually be quite nice if it would be like as nice to myself. But what we said before, right? Like we're our own worst critics at times.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how did you start like to also like be kind to Kristie and come from a place of love?
The journaling, honestly, that allowed me to release a lot of that pent up emotion I was talking about, from the frustration, watching, my parents, they had a volatile relationship growing up. And so I would see them fighting, and I would run to the next door neighbor's house. And so one of the dominant emotions that was controlling my life, Jennifer, was fear. I was always afraid. The anxiety came, and I was afraid of public speaking. I was just afraid. I couldn't even sing in my own apartment because I was afraid somebody on the outside of my door would hear me singing. Now, that's how serious my fear was. And so the journaling helped me to process what was happening. And ultimately I got into the place where I started becoming comfortable in my own skin, but that did not take place until I started taking the action. It's one thing to recognize the fear, and now you got to confront the fear.
But that's like, and it always the thing, right? Like how all these tools work, whether you're journaling or you're whatever the heck it is you do. Or have that vision board, right? Like that's all fun and games. But like you gotta come to a point where you're like, I'm ready to take action. How did you like come to that point of like, now I'm taking action?
It's just really like the image that that comes to my mind is the butterfly. I lived that caterpillar life. And at some point you got to just emerge, and you're going to break out of that shell, the shell of limitation, the cocoon of limitation. I was tired of living in these limits within my own mind, right? My mind was telling me I couldn't do X, Y, and Z. And when you just get sick and tired of being sick and tired, as they say, you start doing something different. I don't know if you ever heard the story Les Brown shared years ago about the dog that was on the porch, and he was always moaning and moaning. This guy was walking through the neighborhood, and ultimately he ended up knocking on the door and asked the owner why the dog was constantly moaning. And he said he was laying on a nail. And he said, well, why doesn't he just get up? He said, I guess it doesn't hurt enough. And that sometimes it takes, for some of us, we have harder hits than others. But when you get tired of just being in there, that moaning state, complaining state, you're going to do something different.
Yeah, I get that. Like there's an element to like, okay, like how bad does it have to get? But at the same time, at least like I know for some of us, we have like a really high threshold of taking shit. Right? Like we can deal with a lot of crap that gets thrown at us. So sometimes it feels like we're never coming to the point of like enough. Like, yeah, we will, but maybe we're like burnt out, half dead by then. That's not good.
That's
like,
not the vision.
How can we? I don't think we can like speed up the process of taking action, but how can we make our minds feel more comfortable to take action?
I love that. I love that. And so the state that I was referring to, that was one of those years in my life. Now I notice I don't procrastinate as long as I used to, right? There are still some procrastination tendencies, but it's not dominant. Yeah, it's not dominant. It's not controlling my life, right? Fear can control someone's life. Procrastination can control someone's decision, inability to make a decision. So how do we get out of that? And this is our emotional resilience.
Yeah.
In that space, that head space, what we can do is hence create division. I often say it's difficult to triumph if you don't have a target.
Yeah. I mean, if you're running and you don't know where the finish line is, you also don't know, like, when did I win? Like,
so I got something that I'm targeting every single day. Right now, it's water intake. It's something powerful about having the visual, you know, the little wellness journals they have. My goal is 8 a day. And so they have like water look like a teardrop. I circle in that water. I tried with the app. The app, I have to go on my phone, go into the app. It's just too cumbersome. And so I keep that journal right in front of me, because out of sight, out of mind, insight in mind. And I can see the water intake.
And we're all on our phones way too much anyway. So I feel like, I mean, do what works for you, right? Like, I mean, I also do
works.
I mean, I still sometimes, like, I don't know, I'm the girl with like the sticky notes everywhere, because I don't know, I just love sticky notes. Sometimes I'm just bumping it on a sticky note and like keep it for later when I figure out what I wanted to do with that sticky note.
But yeah, that's one tangible thing, you know, tactile. Think about all the senses. How can you activate the senses? As many senses as possible. That is going to speed up your ability to execute.
Ooh, I never thought of it as like the inviting all the senses. I love that.
Oh yeah. My home office constantly, I have the essential oils that I use for breath work, the candles behind me. There's sometimes I go into my music so I can get calm. Whatever state you need to put yourself in, activate it with the senses. Sometimes it's going outside, changing your physiology. And so getting in that state, that productive state of mind, you will see. And some people discount meditation. Going back to clarity of thought, why do we get stalled and paralyzed? It's because there's too many competing thoughts.
Yeah, it's jumble.
Yeah, meditation clears all of that chaos, all the noise, it silences it, so you can see exactly what needs to be done and exactly how you want to do it.
Yeah, I had that was the hard start. Probably everyone's hard start with meditation is like you're in peace and quiet and focusing on your breath for like 2 seconds, and then like, oh, a thought coming over too. But every now and then you have that split second of that realization of I'm not thinking, I'm just being. And then like, oh no, I'm thinking again. Let's focus back on like a bodily sensation. So yeah, slowing down. And this is one of those cheap Pinterest quotes, I think, like, slow down, right? Like, I mean, but it's actually that simple.
Why do we want to complicate it?
It's not easy, but it's actually that simple. And like the biggest mistake I feel like my clients do, they're not slowing down enough. They're like, yeah, I'm slowing down. I went from like 100 miles an hour to like 80 miles an hour. I'm like super slow now. Well, super slow right now for your season would be like 5 miles an hour. So there's still some slow. Like, how can you like take out pressure? How do you approach slowing down, Kristie?
I always start with breath work, because you mentioned it. Think about as entrepreneurs, business owners, we are constantly in motion. If we don't hit pause, it doesn't happen. And so there's our intentionality. But breath work allows you to step back and step inside of yourself to hear your life force. And you get to determine that speed. Like, I am intentionally slowing down because we're talking about slowing down, but there is fire still inside of me.
Oh, I know. I saw the fire.
I'm speaking from the candle, and see, this is very intentional. What most individuals don't know how to do, Jennifer, is regulate themselves. That's where your power is.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, regulating yourself, that's a huge one anyway, right? Like,
it really is.
Especially because every time you're outside and people are like buzzing around the place, you're just like, sometimes you soak it up and unintentionally, and you kind of like get nervous and you don't really know why until you realize I'm actually not nervous. It's everything around myself. So you're choosing again, kind of like to regulate yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And that requires that steady attention. I want to pay attention to myself. That's your mindfulness. I want to pay attention to my emotions. I started my day off calm. I got an email, and all of a sudden now I'm angry. If you're not paying attention, you won't even know what the force was, the thing that triggered, the external circumstance that triggered.
Yeah. And before you know it, you snap at your partner because you're angry.
Yeah.
You're like,
It's
like an angry kitty cat.
But get you. I asked myself this question because I just came off a 7-day vacation. I really did unplug. Nice. For entrepreneur to really unplug and not solve a problem, not knock on the door, not anything. That's a miracle. That's a miracle.
Nice.
And so I asked myself, how can I maintain a vacation mind in the daily grind? And I think that's a lot of us asking that question. We don't have to take a vacation to be calm. We don't have to wait to go out of the country to be calm. This is the practice that we can do every single hour, checking in with self, breathing. If we're moving too fast.
Actually just notice that you breathe. And because most of the time you have this, like, you rather shallow breathing instead of like really breathing down into the belly. Or like what helped me also was kind of like that sounds super, like, I don't know, I don't want to say dumb, but I never really thought of it. I was always kind of like, when I was doing breath work, I was always like, I don't know, something didn't really click. And it wasn't until like my breathwork facilitator I had at a time, and she was like, well, you have to think of your lungs are 3-dimensional. So you not only have to think of opening your lungs at the front, but also like at the back. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I mean, I have a basic sense of human anatomy, but like,
yes.
So I'm now always kind of like slowing down the breath. I'm really focusing on, is my back moving because I breathe? Is my belly moving because I breathe? What are the sensations I feel? That like super helps me to slow down.
It's powerful. And you'll notice the change that you create just in a matter of minutes.
That's so interesting, right? Because I don't know, I say most moms I know from my circle, we put kind of like self-care on like the semi-back burner. So like, yeah, sure. Okay, does showering count as self-care? No, it does not. It's basic hygiene. But like, we always have this idea of like, oh, I will have this like eat, pray, love moment, like I go on vacation for 3 months and I kind of like do all the yoga and meditation and whatnot that comes along. And like, well, yeah, sure, that's relaxing. But when you come back, if I give you like a day and you're back in your rut, because it's just, you have to find a way how you can be the eat, pray, love version of yourself in your everyday, right? Like,
yes, in your everyday. And that's moment by moment. I tell people the mastery is in the moments. One visualization exercise that I've been practicing with my clients lately, I just made it up, right? I love the imagination. And so if I hear a dominant emotion that they're experiencing, so as an example, fear came up today.
Yeah.
You're walking through the forest and fear represents an animal. What animal do you see? And I would hear a big brown bear. It's intimidating. What's intimidating about that big brown bear? Now, on the other side of that fear is courage, the Latin root word for courage, core, which is the heart. Now, if you take heart and you face that big brown bear, what new emotion in that emotional state do you want to shift into so you don't have to live afraid of the big brown bear? And I could hear majestic eagle, and I can fly over anything.
Well, I like that.
Yeah, yeah. So they go into their mind's eye because somehow our brain, it registers pictures faster than words.
Yeah.
And we hold on to those pictures and stories, right? And
Yeah.
so if you've been telling yourself a story, you're going to hold on to that story. And sometimes that picture can be more powerful than that old story.
It surely kind of like acts quicker,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because with the word, you kind of like you have to hear it first. And the
Mm-hmm.
image is just like, and the same. Yeah, that's really interesting. Because also when you like, when memories come up from when you were a child,
Mm-hmm.
for me, when I think about it, it's mostly the pictures. Like the picture that happened. And sometimes, yes, it's like that stingy sentence or something. But yeah, to really use that. And especially if you know you're processing visually as well, then that's probably one of the keys to really, I don't want to speed up. I don't want to say speed up like the work, but it surely is going to make it much easier.
Yeah, absolutely. To accept something different.
Oh, yeah, right. Because let's talk about like different.
Okay.
Because we're always kind of like, and then an entrepreneurial journey, right? We have all these little things that everyone says we should do, like you should do this and you should do that at that stage, blah blah blah, blah. And
shooting all over us.
Yeah, oh goodness, yes, I love it, yes, yeah. And then we're the good little brave entrepreneurs. We take all this to heart and we don't go do it until we're like no. But anyway, but we're like, and then we're come to a place where like, okay, I realized all those blueprints and shit, they're not working for me because my journey's different. Okay. But then we're stuck out with, oh no. So first we're stuck with, I have to take responsibility again. And I have to come up with different things until I find one thing that works for me. Like we have to try different things all over again. Like, how do you keep yourself going to find different things?
I think therein lies the commitment to your vision. I'm surrounded by 22 vision boards, 6 vision books. There's no one saying, Kristie, pursue your vision. Keep going. The year that you may stop, maybe the year 10, and you're about to quit. No one's saying, girl, don't you quit. It's Kristie saying, no, you keep going till you find it. So that's your commitment. In season, out of season, through stormy weather, good days, bad days. I'm all in for however long it takes. That is your determination. That is the stamina. This race is not giving to the swift nor the strong, but it's the one that endures.
Yeah, it's a marathon. I always say it's a marathon.
Yeah. So if you don't have it in you to endure to the end, or whatever that end looks like, this may not be the path for you. This path is not for the faint at heart. It really isn't. You have to be mentally tough. You have to have thick skin in this space.
And you have to be really willing to look at really dark places. Right? Like you really have to look at your shadows and be like, right? Because no, I mean, because a lot of the times when things happen, let's say you're starting out, I mean, most of the time you're not gonna land like a big sellout launch the first time you try it, right? You probably have a couple of launches that are like 0 or like a bit of whatever is coming in. So you really just gotta come to a place where like, oh, I'm seeing a pattern here. And the pattern is tied back to me and how I am and how I behave. That's usually not really a nice place or a place we're naturally excited to look at.
Right there, the discomfort zone.
Yeah, right. That's the thing. Like you gotta build your discomfort capacity as well.
Build your discomfort capacity. You heard it here live.
Yeah, you heard it here first. But at the same time, because there are a lot of people of us who, as we said before, who can take on a lot of shit.
Yeah.
There's also the reverse effect. That's the irony of it all. You also have to you build your capacity to receive and hold good. Right? Because otherwise you're just gonna go back because you're not like, your body is not used to so much goodness, right? Especially depending on how you grew up. I'd say, I don't know, sometimes, I mean, I once had a client that was so interesting. She worked really hard and she had like a really big launch. And it was the first time she had that big of money coming in like a really short time.
Mm.
And I think maybe a week or two later,
Mm-hmm.
she voxed me and was like, Jen, I don't really know how, but that money's all gone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know I paid bills and shit, but
Mm-hmm.
it's gone. Like, it's kind of like as her body was regulating her back to what
Mm-hmm.
it's used.
Yeah.
So regulating a tricky game.
Yeah, because the intentionality is going to be so key, right?
Mm.
If you've been at this space and then you enlarge,
Mm-hmm.
we're as humans, we expand, we contract. So the
Yeah.
key is, how do I keep expanding? And if you don't keep pushing your own envelope, you are going to naturally go back to the default setting. I often say we live by design, not default. So if in those moments, and that's where support comes in, because there's this, it's human tendency. There's a natural proclivity to contract. Think about many individuals are talking about the recession. It's not even in my vocabulary. I'm not even conversing about it. I'm bringing it up as a point. But they're concerned about that because it's constantly being bombarded, across all platforms.
Yeah. Like
so
everything is down, money is short.
Right.
Like,
they're taking it in and then they're naturally starting to contract because everyone's talking about contracting. I'm talking about expanding. I'm talking about bigger than big, greater than great. Right? That's why we have to be deliberate.
And that takes a little, I don't know, courage, maybe. That's the right word. I don't know, but it's the same like with I don't know if you're like anyone who's into financial investing, right? Like now is actually the time to invest. It's not when like everyone is investing and the market is high. We're not in a recession. It's actually in a recession. Like if you have the possibilities, now is the time.
Now is the time.
So it's actually not when you're like feeling you're contracting. That's actually the time to invest to expand even more.
Yeah.
Could be applied to us too, no?
Yeah. And see, this is what in wellness we teach, that's your opposite action. Right? The natural inclination is to contract, but my opposite action, I'm going to go against my own grain, is to expand. I saw a quote earlier this morning, and let me look at her name, Pema Chodra. She said, "You are the sky, everything else is the weather. You are the sky, everything else is the weather." The sky doesn't move. All of these other moving parts, they're going to do what they do, but you just be you. You be the sky.
That's right. The sky just is.
It just is.
Ooh. I'll have to print this on. I don't know. I want to print this on, I don't know, on a big poster.
Isn't that powerful? I've been chewing on it all day. You are the sky. Everything.
You could write an entire thesis on this quote alone. Like there's so many layers.
Yeah, it really is.
I'm like, my mind cannot even process all the layers right now. I'm like, oh God. And that's going back to the present moment, kind of like allowing us to see the beauty of what already is. Right? Because we're always also so, and taking action is awesome, and it's key and it's crucial. I'm the last one to tell you not to take action, but it kind of like if the intention behind the action is the present sucks, I want to get away from it as fast as possible, is an entirely different intention than saying, I am good where I am. My life is good, but maybe let's see what's out there. Feeling curious today, right? You have a lightness, you have a sense of play, a curiosity, while as you have your back against the wall, or like you have the big brown bear that you had earlier in your vision chasing you. I don't think you're going to make the same decisions. Yeah. Spot on. And those, like, you need to have to hold the intention to make the right decision that help you become who you want to be.
And I often ask clients, who do you want to be in this moment? Because moments change, seasons change. Sometimes you get married, you have children. Yeah. You're going to be a different version of yourself. It's just like the diamond. It's multifaceted. Yes. So the facet that you were showing everyone 5 years ago may not be the side that you're showing in this season of your life. And that's perfectly okay. Yeah. It's our ability to adapt.
Oh, that brings me to an interesting question of like the sides of the diamond we're sharing and we're not showing. So what gifts or talents do you typically hide from yourself or others?
Is this rhetorical? Is this Kristie?
Yeah, Kristie.
Oh man, I think that the number one talent that I hid more than anything, I'm showing it more than I did in times past, but the number one was my singing voice, as I mentioned, that fear of being judged. You hit a wrong note in today's society. When I was coming up, there was no Instagram, so anything can go viral now, and so I don't want a bad note going viral.
I'm so glad I went to, like, I was at clubbing age when there was no YouTube. Oh dear Lord, I would not want to think about it.
So I was afraid before it went viral, so you can imagine. But going back to facing the fear, I remember when I was younger and I dropped the mic because I was looking at the audience and they gave me that death stare. Nobody seemed like they were enjoying the song. So going back to head tripping and the thinking traps, I dropped the mic. Jennifer ran to my aunt's home.
Yeah.
And so and going back to pivotal moments, I had to confront that very fear, because the last place I left off was dropping the mic, literally, and leaving. So now I have to go back and sing, right? I got to do the thing that I'm afraid of. And I've just been inching and inching. And now when I do videos, typically 3 to 5 times a week, I'm throwing music in there, I'm singing, and I'm just having a good time.
Yeah, but that's what it's about, and that's what attracts others. If you're having a good time,
yeah.
Because I mean, everything's going to shit anyway, so we might as well have a good time.
Might as well have a good time.
We have a recession, but hey, at least we have a good time
and look good having a good time.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting. Like, where do you fear, like, that fear of, like, singing? Was it a fear of being seen, of visibility? When you reflected back, what was kind of like the root?
When you said that, I absolutely believe that was a part of it, because I hid for so long. I was the shy introvert. I was the one people didn't see, awkward looking. I had braces and glasses in high school. And so I was the ugly duckling turned into the beautiful swan.
And you had older siblings.
I'm the only child. So there was no positive reinforcement, no other voices. You go from the ugly duckling now to the beautiful swan, and you have to accept a new identity.
Especially in your teenage years, right? Like, it's a lot.
I can still hear them saying carrot legs. and then when you go into modeling, it's the very thing people praise. But I was berated about that. So I had to learn to accept Kristie from the outside noise and labels. I had to strip myself of all the labels. Anything that anyone had ever said about Kristie, I had to get comfortable with seeing me in a different light, the way I started literally writing out, who am I? Going back to that question.
Yeah.
I decide that.
That's all there is to say, really. I feel that's such a good note to end it. Like, we can all acknowledge there are loads of things in your life you may or may not have a lot of control about. But do not let the decision of who you are be taken away from you. Right? Because you can decide, and in every moment, right? Like, you have the right to decide, oh, I'm this Jen now, and I might be another Jen tomorrow, because I make the rules.
Oh, I love that. Play by the rules you write.
What do you have, like, a future Kristie you're aspiring towards to at the moment?
Tomorrow's headlines begin here. Let me tell you.
That's something for a coffee mug, though.
It's on one of my vision boards, but I was in the mirror early this morning and I was playing around. My husband looking at me and I said, who the baddest coach in the land? Who's the baddest coach in the land? The can-do coaches. But I thought about, you remember Snow White? Who's the fairest of them all? But you notice Snow White came up. Was it the Wicked Witch? What was she?
Her stepmom.
The stepmom. And she said,
it's always the stepmom.
Who's the most fairest in the land?
Yeah.
She couldn't see herself because she was so focused on someone else. And comparison-itis is, you know, it's very big in our industry. what is such and such doing with their business? Well, they're doing it this way. As you mentioned, they're doing it this way.
So we follow this blueprint because apparently she's doing good.
Yeah. But you got to see that you're the baddest one. It doesn't matter if you're not the baddest one. You got to believe you're the baddest one in the land. And that's all that matters.
Yeah, that's true.
What do you believe? What do you believe? It all boils down to belief. You know how much I've created just by belief alone.
Yeah, but this is really it, right? Like, this is something no one can take away from you. No one should. Yeah. No one should.
Don't let them. I fight for my belief. I was in my therapy said I have 3 mental health coaches and 1 therapist that support the Can Do Coach because my mind is my most powerful asset. And that's what she asked me. She said, what matters most to you? What's most important? I said, my mind. Above all, my mind. If this right here is not razor sharp, I'm no good. I can't accomplish my goals. I can't push through adversity. I can't make shifts and changes without this right here.
Yeah. Got to keep it safe.
Yeah. I keep it safe and I keep it well cared for. And that's why I don't mind welcoming support, because I say support is sexy. If you're going to get through those dark moments, the shadows that you mentioned, you need to let people know. I think as one of my greatest learning lessons when I first started is I didn't let anyone in, right? You're hiding from the shadows. I don't want anybody to see my shadow. I don't want anybody to see I'm struggling. I'm struggling and it's okay. And I'm going to get through this. I'm not always going to ride the struggle bus. I'm going to get in my limo of limitlessness one day.
I mean, seriously, I don't know if you're like your next like online coaching program or something should be called like the Limitless Limousine or something.
Wow, I wrote it down. You know, us coaches.
You know, and then you have this like gorgeous, amazing visuals if you would like a white limo or like a black limo, you know, like okay. I see. Okay, I see it. Hey, Kristie. Dear Lord, it has been a ride. Thank you so much.
I enjoyed every second. Thank you.
Tell us, like, where can people find you online? Where you hang out?
Yes, the main hub. You want to go to the website, queenfidence.com, QUEENFIDENCE, Queenfidence, like crown. Queen.
Love it. We're going to link it in show notes.
And then on social media under Queenfidence Image, Facebook, Queenfidence Image Consulting, Instagram. If you wanted my personal LinkedIn, Kristie Y. Kennedy.
I love that. Okay, so if you, I don't know, want to grab yourself some Queenfidence, Kristie, so want to look up. Okay, so I have always one last question before I let anyone go, because I'm curious and always need new materials. Which book are you currently reading, Kristie?
Yes, I literally it's called The Zen of Listening. I can't tell you the author, but.
Well, we can look it up. That's the Zen of Listening. That sounds great.
The Zen of Listening. Listening in this noisy world.
And especially, I mean, I always say when people ask me, what do you do as a coach? Or like sometimes I coach people too. And I'm like, well, half part is listening. And the other part is asking really smart questions.
Right. We're facilitators.
Yeah, because like I can tell what's right for you. Like I can bring you to the realization what's right for you faster than you can do yourself. But you gotta go in to go forward, right? Like it's inward to move forward.
Oh, you gotta go in to move forward.
We're done here, Kristie.
This is amazing. They should pay us. Hello.
Seriously, yeah, we should. I don't know. We should do it like a paid podcast,
right? These gems, they're priceless.
Oh dear Lord, Kristie, thank you so much for joining me on the Scenic Route podcast. It was a ride. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you so much for listening to the Scenic Route podcast. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode and that you can take something from it that feels right to you. I'd be so grateful if you could share the Scenic Route podcast with others. As always, you can head over to scenicroutepodcast.com to check out all the links and resources from today's episode. Oh, and while you're there, don't forget to download my free email course, Intuitive Branding Invitation, to teach you how you can successfully tune into your own brand frequency and rediscover your brand's unique gifts, strengths, and talents. So thanks again. Talk soon.